You guys wanted me to watch every bad thing that happened to Guts. All right, so I love Berserk. I love Berserk. I think Guts is like the most human character in anime manga. The struggles he goes through to succeed, to become someone. God, I love Berserk. So let's just jump right into it. Every bad thing that happened to Guts.
Every bad thing that's happened to Guts. Now, I'm going to do my best into detailing all of the major and maybe some of the minor ones that stand out. Just anything bad that has happened to Guts. And Berserk is a story that doesn't really like to leave things always to the imagination of the reader. In fact, it prefers to show you it. And that has actually caused a bit of debate recently throughout these past couple months, in fact. And since we're already on that topic, I might as well just make my stance on this very clear so I can get it off my chest. I've used cooking analogies before, comparing criticizing a story versus writing a story being akin to knowing what food you like versus knowing how to cook. And in terms of stories in general, I always view it as sort of like a buffet. You get to go and try out all these different sorts of foods, and at the end of the day, you know which ones you like and which ones you don't like. So the next time you go into a buffet, you can choose, again, which ones you like and which ones you don't like.
I like Berserk. Berserk is my favorite food.
However, if anybody ever walked up to me in a buffet and was like, nah, bro, you can't eat from that. I don't like it. I would punch you in the face. Leave me alone.
I wouldn't assault someone if they say you can't have food. I feel like assault might be a little extreme. I want to talk about Guts. Let him cook. Let him cook.
I want to eat my food. What I'm basically saying is that there's some people out there that prefer certain graphic moments to be more implied instead of directly shown. Other people, vice versa, and some people like a mix of the two depending on the scenario within the story. At the end of the day, though, you are in every right to have your opinion. But to say that there's no place for stories that decide to show it is absolutely ridiculous, and to tell—
Dog, everyone can do whatever the hell they want, alright? Miura wrote Berserk. He can do whatever the hell he wants. It's his story. If you don't like it, don't read it.
An author, what they can or cannot do within their story is, well, entitlement, and I'd appreciate it if you kept that within your draft.
Dude, how much hate does this guy get for his Berserk videos? Oh my god.
Is it necessary for an author to depict a massive genocide or a large mass murdering scene? No, but yet none of you ever seem to have an issue with that. Now with that off of my chest, we can go into every
Dude, what the hell was that disclaimer for? 2 minutes of just disclaimers. My ass gets roasted in the comments a lot for covering Berserk. Please do not continue to roast it. Let me cook.
Guts throughout the story of Berserk. Now, for the sake of you, and for my sake as well, we're going to be doing this in chronological order from the time of his birth up till now, which is chapter 368. If you want, feel free to leave a counter down in the comment section below, but now we can begin. He was born from the dead corpse of his mother, which was hanging on a tree, and he was picked up by a band of mercenaries and adopted by a prostitute.
Dude, why, bro?
Robbed of a mother's love at birth, left—
Dude, that little giggle. Why leave in the little giggle?
To drown in blood, he was to die beneath her corpse, left to rot in a cesspit of despair, born to die as a waste of air. And my doctor simply thought I had autism. His adopted mother, Shizu, then died of the plague when Guts was around the age of 3, and Guts got to see her rotting body. Because of Shizu's death, his adopted father, Gambino, would do all sorts of things to him, be it verbally and physically abuse him, have him essentially be in battles since he was like 5 years old. We'll learn how to kill a person as a child, which I don't think I need to state how that could kind of mess up your development as a person. Also doesn't help that his adopted father then curses and blames Guts for everything bad that's happened to him and treats the dog better than him, even goes as far as to sell Guts out for like 3 silver pieces to a man named Donovan. After though—
Oh, this dude just suffered.
Guts were to get his revenge by killing Donovan, but as we learn throughout the story of Berserk, vengeance—
Why EDP, bro? Why, bro? No.
doesn't really heal anything. And eventually, his adopted father Gambino would go on to try to kill Guts in a drunken fit of rage, confessing to him that he did sell him out to Donovan, and in self-defense, Guts has to kill his own father. These experiences would cause him to develop heavy trauma and a despise for being touched. I'm pretty sure there's a technical term for that somewhere, but I forget it. And I think to add something on—
Bro, this man—
top of that, which shows itself more throughout the Golden Age arc, is that Guts was never really given the opportunity to dream, to really think about what he wanted to do or who he wanted to be.
The dude had to just, his dream was, not getting molested tomorrow. That was his dream. You see a character like this, and then you go on Twitter and start harassing people for playing Hogwarts Legacy? It's unbelievable to me. You see stories like this, and you feel the need to complain about other things.
Instead, all he knew was how to survive, and in order to survive in the world of Berserk, you must kill. which is all he's really capable of. Which is why I think later on, as he tries to discover himself more and more in the Golden Age, he has that desire to go out and venture and find something for himself. We also have a bit of a flashback that happens later on in Berserk before he joins the Band of the Hawk, but again, like I said,
love this flashback.
We're doing this in chronological order, so essentially in Spring Flowers of Distant Days, he's taken in as a prisoner, betrayed by another
A lot of people complained about this backstory, by the way. I thought this was really cool.
prisoner, and then we get one of the most heart-wrenching scenes. I'm not going to go into every person Guts is killed case by case, but we can kind of sum up every person that he's had to kill before joining the Band of the Hawk as really a means of surviving and living a life that I don't think anybody should live. Eventually, he would meet Griffith.
I want you.
Which, in order to really get Guts to join the Band of the Hawk, Griffith dislocates his shoulder. This would be the beginning of their amazing friendship. Guts then has to participate in this 100 Years War with the Band of the Hawk, where he's constantly being berated and insulted by people such as Casca and Corcus, even being told that he does not have consideration for the people he's in charge of. And maybe I could be reading a little too much into this scene, but I think being compared to the likes of a mad dog may have triggered a little something from Guts' childhood.
Damn.
After a failed assassination
I didn't even think of that.
attempt on Griffith, he's then sent to kill Julius, which ends up going wrong when he kills his son Adonis, who was completely innocent, a boy who was reminding Guts of his own times with Gambino. Guts had become accustomed to killing other soldiers and mercenaries, but killing an innocent child was something that Guts, I don't think in this stage, was prepared for. Oh yeah, and after having to escape
In this stage, the man suffers a lot more. Yeah, that was a heartbreaking moment. Berserk is a story about human struggle. That's really what it's about. And seeing how much this man struggles is tragic, it's heart-wrenching, and it's also inspiring.
by sewer, immediately after, he has to find out the person he did this for, Griffith, doesn't even see him as an equal or a friend.
But a
or well,
tool.
same thing for Griffith. I also can't fail to mention the encounter with Zod. Imagine walking down a corridor and just seeing all of your men ripped to shreds in bloody murder. At the revelation that there's something out there so strong, it made Guts feel genuine fear for what seemed like the first time in his life since his childhood. I could mention all of the times Guts has suffered grave injuries, but I think that would actually make this video like near 2 hours long, but I think Guts has suffered everything from cuts, hits to the head.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I feel like until this point he was just talking about like molestation and then a lot of trauma type things. Man was sliced to bits! Dude was stressed out of his mind in wars, fighting, thinking he would die, be in near-death situations all the time. Got arms chopped and sliced and slashed. He fought 100 men in hand-to-hand combat and won, fighting with his weariness too.
Broken ribs, an arrow piercing him through the hand when he had to kill 100 men by himself.
Oh, yeah. Well, he just literally just mentioned
All of the physical trauma he's gone through up to this point is insane, and we're not
It's like insane how much actual physical trauma the man went through, but we don't even need to talk about that compared to what's coming.
we're not even at the tip of the iceberg.
Oh,
Guts
bro.
would leave the Band of the Hawk to find self-discovery and a purpose to live for. Griffith goes absolutely nuts, sleeps with the princess, which makes the Band of the Hawk, Guts' only friends, outcasts, outlaws, wanted, hunted down. And when Guts comes back, he has to help them survive all of this because Casca has been struggling for about a year, and when Casca wants to speak to him alone, she legitimately attacks him with killer intent, even stabbing him in the ribcage before attempting to commit suicide, which Guts saves her from. And even in the
Bro, and this is someone that he loves, right? My God, that's stressful.
happiest moment of Berserk, which would be a happy moment for Guts' life, he ends up having a PTSD flashback where in the middle of trying to make love with somebody, he has to confess the fact that he killed his own dad. And even though this one is, it's not really Casca's fault. Later when they go to save Griffith, I'm not sure if this is something Guts is really aware of, but we do see Casca having very heavy doubt.
Man had sex though, so that's a win. Someone in chat is thinking that. Someone's watching this is like, yeah, I mean, all this is true, but he had sex. So someone's actually thinking that. I'm sure.
And there's still lingering attachments to Griffith, which... Man, this man can't catch a break! Then when arriving at the cell, he realizes that Griffith truly suffered greatly because Guts left him, which I imagine could have caused Guts a bit of guilt. Also, Griffith tries to choke him out here, but he's so weak that he's incapable of doing so. After trying to escape with Griffith now in their custody, Guts now has to fight Wild, the second apostle he's ever encountered, but this time there's no escaping, as in a near-death bout he has to... Well, anyways, it's a near-death experience to where he almost saw his current love of his life, Casca, almost be violated, which, well,
yeah.
we're not exactly in the clear with that. He then asked Casca to leave with him so they could live.
So, but again, it's like, I love how you don't even mention the fact that the man's being bitten and bleeding all over the place. No. For Guts, that's not even suffering.
Well, we're not exactly in the clear with that. He then asked Casca to leave with him so they could live a life together, as that's what he desires, and she tells him that she can't go. He expressed that sentiment of wanting to be with her in wounds, but you get the point. I'm going to do my best to speed run through this one, so try to keep up.
Eclipse.
After going to save his best friend then decides to sacrifice him and the rest of the Band of the Hawk. By having the brand of sacrifice on his neck, now Guts is eternally doomed to go to hell, as well will be constantly chased all around the entire Earth by demons. He then has to witness the brutal deaths of Pippin and Gaston in the pool of his friend's blood, whilst not seeing the murders of Corcus and Judah. They would have been very painful to him, as then he looks up and he sees that the love of his life, Casca, is being violated, which sends him into furious rage. Then his former best buddy Griffith then descends his femto and starts violating Casca, and Guts, in order to try and free himself from the malevolent apostle which was biting him, he then has to cut off his own arm and then charge towards Griffith until he's pinned down to the ground and has his eye gouged out, while he has to continue to watch it.
Yeah, and he has to, while he's having his eye gouged out, his other eye is being forced to be open, watching the love of his life, Casca, get violated by Griffith, his former best friend. Yeah, Berserk's a rough one, buddy. The eclipse in Berserk is literally initiation, okay? For every human being. There are two types of people in this world. Those that experience the eclipse and those that are still innocent.
Skull Knight finally breaks in, saves him and Casca, and then later on he finds out that Casca had completely lost his mind, doesn't remember Guts, doesn't want to be near him, and the baby that she gave birth to was actually Guts' baby, which was now tainted by Fem. And Guts once again goes into a furious rage, realizing that now he's going to be haunted by ghosts and all sorts of nightly creatures, and feeling like he has no other option instead of taking care of Casca and spending time with her, hoping to recuperate her in any...
Because you have to remember, she was completely brain dead, barely going through the life. She couldn't even talk. And you think AOT is dark?
Any way possible, even though we don't know if that would have even been possible in the first place. He does the only thing he knows how to do, and that's kill, so then he wages a war.
And also, if he would have, you have to remember, if he would have stayed with Casca, which everyone was saying, like, bro, why didn't you just stay with Casca, bro? Why do you have to adventure? Well, first of all, he was looking at this person that he loved, who was a vegetable. Second of all, and I think more importantly, he's being chased around the world by demons.
On all of demonkind. For the next 2 years, and well, actually for the rest of his life, he's able to get little sleep because he's haunted, not only physically, but also psychologically, as we end up finding out in the Black Swordsman arc. There's even demons that invade your dreams. I actually want to pose that as a little bit of a challenge, because I tried it for a little bit, and I was like, nah, dude, forget it. Try going the whole day, only using one eye and one arm, and then pull an all-nighter that night. Don't go to sleep that night, and the next day continue only using one eye and one arm. Now, I also want to point out this death just because it's very similar to the one of Adonis, but I think him having to kill Colette also is something that Mira retroactively made work a little more with the death of Adonis, because Golden Age comes after Black Swordsman. The point is, having to kill another child, I think, really messed with Guts, and later on when he has to deal with the slug count, he basically tells a person to just kind of kill themselves, but he, in a way, is sort of taking their hatred upon himself so that they can continue with the purpose of living, until you realize just how much of a burden that is on Guts, hearing once again that he's a curse and it's all his fault. So then we jump to the Lost Children arc, where not only does he have to kill an entire legion of demon children.
Well, yeah, legion of demon children, and that, you know, that's wild. Dude, just the way that he had in his mind that beast inside him, like he couldn't trust himself. He thought that he was uncontrollable also. It's not like the world is out to kill him, but the only person he can have faith in is himself. He had no faith in himself either. He did not trust himself. He also viewed himself as a monster.
Children under the control of another demon child, but then he has to break the reality to Jill that, hey, this world sucks, there's no refuge, there's no paradise, good luck. He's then taunted also by evil spirits, which suggests that Guts could become just like Griffith, which I imagine isn't the best thing for him to hear. And I didn't mention this earlier, but this will be prevalent later on a couple times, but he keeps on being visited by the Skull Knight, who seems to talk a lot about fate and about events that will end up happening, but never shows up on time. Imagine keep being told that you're the struggler, and it's like, nah, bro.
Yeah, dude, the man's just like, I want to die, and it's like, bro, your fate is to struggle. It's like, my fate is to struggle!
Don't say. He's whipped a ton and taken prisoner by...
Dog, just look at this. Like, this is barely even counted as, like, Guts suffering. Oh, Guts suffered? No one's gonna mention this.
A sadist named Farnese, and throughout the rest of Conviction, as he goes on trying to save Casca, a whole bunch of crazy stuff happens to him. He gets hit a decent amount of times by a breaking wheel, smashed into stone pillars. He takes like 1,000 god punches, reunites with Casca to be reminded that she's no longer the Casca that he once knew, and then at the very end of it all has to witness the man who brought all this pain on him, or a good good majority of it. To be fair, not all of it was Griffith. Come back! So I might as well mention this now, but Goto, the blacksmith, who sort of revealed to Guts that his path of vengeance isn't the proper one, ends up dying. And in the one area where he was able to keep Casca safe, the one area which is the grave side of the Band of the Hawk, where Rickard is there, guess who shows up?
It's our boy.
Griffith. Griffith shows up to the gravesite of Guts' friends and says, hey, ain't it an appropriate place? All of the Band of the Hawk here together once again, even though the majority of them are in the grave. And then he shows...
Not just majority, like, 51%. No. Majority, like, all of them except for 3.
Shows up just to say that he's not sorry and he doesn't feel anything.
Damn, bro!
What a piece of shit. Nah, but it's really crazy, though. Griffith showed up to say he's not sorry, and then he embraces Casca.
The girl that he raped earlier.
Again, in front of Guts, leaves, and now Guts has to travel to find a new safe place for Casca, whilst always being reminded that the love of his life is no longer there mentally. It's not like they could just stay at a cabin. Why? Because they're constantly hunted down by demons because
Man
of
was
their brain.
branded.
Just to remind you, in case you forgot about that, Guts then, under possession, goes on to almost violate Casca himself.
Okay, it's interesting. I interpreted this all differently. The masked man had a very different interpretation of this scene than me. I didn't think he was under possession, like a demon possessed him to do these things. I thought it was literally him, and he hated himself for it. It was the manifestation of his ego.
Which only alienates her from him further, and sort of, not only, I imagine, places a huge amount of guilt and self-hatred upon himself.
That was horrible. Man felt terrible forever. Couldn't live with himself.
Which I think truly prompted him into being more accepting of other people joining him on his journey to finding a new place for Casca. Oh, and if it wasn't bad enough that he had already been wounded physically, mentally, he also ends up getting his soul wounded when he gets sliced in the chest by Slan. All before they arrive at Shirke's master's place, and she sort of reveals things to the group until they are attacked by Griffith's new Band of the Hawk. Not only did Griffith do what he did, but then he establishes a new Band of the Hawk and continues on to accomplish his goal of getting a kingdom. For the amount of times that Griffith has spit in Guts' face, I think it qualifies as a kink at this point. And in order to combat this new Band of the Hawk, specifically...
Thank you for mentioning this.
Grumbeld, he would have to wear the Berserker armor, which doesn't really heal any of his injuries. It just sort of, like, tears at him and puts things back into place. The previous user bleeding out to death, as well as it also...
Okay, all right. You gotta explain it a little clearer than that. The Berserk armor is monstrous. It will push you to your peak physical limits, okay? If you get an arm dislocated, it'll just pop it back in. If you get a cut, it'll stitch your bone back into place. It's literally not curing you at all. It is holding your tattered and bleeding limbs together with needles on the inside just so that you could keep fighting at your absolute peak. He will keep fighting. He will keep moving. His foot will break. It'll just put it right back into place. It's not going to cure the wound. In fact, it'll make it worse. But he'll be able to keep walking. That's literally what the armor holds him together on the inside.
Also enhances his inner beast of darkness, which only makes him a bigger danger around Casca. And while doing everything that...
Inner beast of darkness, I didn't take that literally like there's a demon in him. I thought that was just the manifestation of his ego.
He can, so that he doesn't give in to that inner darkness, even though being pushed further and further to that breaking point, he's also having to conflict with the fact that maybe things will never be the same with him and Casca ever again. He also gets struck by lightning like 2 or 3
Dude, this was such a good scene.
Times, which is like...
Okay, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, man. Literally struck by lightning.
What else? Also having to live with the fact that the person who betrayed him is building their dreams off of the corpses of the only friends he ever really had before this group that he...
And more than that, like, he knows that this person is very likely going to sacrifice all of humankind so that he could reach an even higher level. Like, this man that he hates the most in the world, this man that's done so many evil things, is being hailed as a messiah. Recognize that for a second, okay? Like, look at me, okay? There are people that did really bad things to me in my life, okay? Let's use the internet as an example. Someone cancels me unjustly and doesn't apologize for it, let's say. It sucks. Sucks watching them get pat on the back. Basic humanity. This is a dude who murdered his entire clan, his entire group, everyone he loves, raped his love in front of his eyes, is still murdering people and causing demons to kill him, and he's being revered as a messiah. Oh my god.
That he's currently with. I'm also going to mention this now because he's also haunted by the demon child, which is technically his, but it was tainted by Femto. So it makes sense why Guts wouldn't want to really even see that thing, that hideous atrocity, which then turns into the Moonlight Boy, which visits Casca. And so Guts is reminded of the family that he never had. Also, that Moonlight Boy, Guts' child, now also shares a body with Griffith. I know I've reiterated this a couple times in different ways, but Griffith violates Casca, tainting Guts' child.
Okay, I feel like he said this.
Come back.
We heard, bro.
As Guts' son, basically.
Yeah, we know.
We're not even done yet. I think the most painful but slightly hilarious thing about this entire video that I've just realized, I've pretty much reiterated the entire plot of Berserk up to this point just by the bad stuff that's happened.
It's all just suffering.
The group then goes on a boat where I think we get a good amount of scenes, as I stated earlier, where
Look
Guts
at it.
really
He is a scar. Every inch of his body is scarred from wounds.
has to contend with the fact that maybe he cannot be with Casca. And as if Guts hasn't gone through nearly every of physically suffering in the book, he ends up suffering these sort of like sound wave hits from the heartbeat of a sea god, which, listen, bro, I imagine is pretty painful. I wouldn't know. Then finally, they arrive at the place where they can revive Casca's mind, and they do revive her mind, but then when he goes to see her after all this time,
she screams.
She suffers a mental breakdown, and she can't even see him. Oh, but it's not over.
That scene is so heart-wrenching, because I was waiting years for the chapter that she actually remembers, where she actually gets herself back, and that's her reaction to seeing Guts. The utter disappointment and despair in his eyes.
Yet, ladies and gentlemen, because then, as to make matters even worse, Griffith shows up on the island, takes Casca, leaves, and Guts is once again in the helpless position he was in during the eclipse. And you know what the best part of all of this is? The story's not even over, so there's probably more. This has been The Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day. And
Dog,
peace.
bro, Berserk is like, it's just next level. Berserk is just next level scary. Thank you all for watching. Berserk, man, you gotta read it. It's an actual lifetime experience.
Like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitch. Stay weird, fam.